Welcome to the BEASTwriter family where social media engagement is encouraged. I'm your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be discussing and breaking down Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa's current contract situation. As you guys know, both these guys came out of that 2019 NFL draft class. Both those guys are in line for big money contracts after having a monster season, respectively, as an edge rusher and as a wing back, running back, kick returner, wide receiver, wide back, flex back, Deebo Samuel. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about those things and what the instant gratification versus long-term gains is. If you guys remember how I like to formulate my YouTube analysis and any of my analysis for that matter is I break it down into three parameters. The first one is who are the players or coaches involved. The second parameter is why the move was made, or in this case potentially could be made. And the last but not least parameter is the instant gratification versus long-term gains. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about that as we go ahead and swing up the Nick Bosa deal that's about to come to fruition. So let's get those tickers up. All right, Nick Bosa. So again, the first parameter, who is Nick Bosa? For those who are watching, as you guys know, not all 49er fans follow me in the BWF as it pertains to a certain team. I cover the entire NFL. So Nick Bosa is a 2019 first-round draft pick, drafted number 2 overall. He has 24.5 career sacks in 35 career regular season games. If you guys remember, he only played in 2 last year, and so obviously that's why that number is kind of skewed a little bit, but he bounced back in a big way, right? He had 15.5 sacks in 2021. He also was in line for a first-team All-Pro vote by the Pro Football Writers Association, and here he is in line, again, being a top 5 edge rusher when healthy. If you guys remember when people were saying, oh, trade Bosa for Deshaun Watson. And I'm like, no. Let's not do that. Trade Deebo for Deshaun Watson. No. Let's not do that. Let's peel back layers of the onion to get to the core, as I always like to say. And we should learn from our previous mistakes in trading away DeForest Buckner, who was off with the Indianapolis Colts, had a top 5 defense. And we all know the merry-go-round circus act that happened there with the defensive line. All right, so I said, no, don't trade Bosa. I know instant gratification will tell us, he's coming off a torn ACL. We don't know how he's going to come back. I said, look, this guy's going to have a career season. He's going to be an all-pro. Watch it happen. Here we are today, all right? Another beast receipt checks out. So, again, these are some things that I like to talk about because I can't force you to follow. You can follow whoever you want. You only have so many hours in a day. I can't force feed you to follow me. Obviously, I'm being biased, like, follow me, yeah. But at the end of the day, man, I value your time just as you value my time. So I'm not going to put out some stuff out there. And again, this is kind of like a review for people that you follow, right? Because at the end of the day, we review the team and say, oh, they need to work on this. They need to do this in the draft. Same thing with reporters. Same thing with people in the media. If you're going to gravitate towards someone, you'd rather gravitate towards someone who's right rather than gets it wrong in hindsight. And so that's why I talk about real-time analysis versus hindsight. That's why I talk about triple F, flip-flop or fakes. Don't be a flip-flop or fake. That's why I always keep it 100 here because, again, at the end of the day, you only have so many hours to follow whoever you want to follow. And so that's why I take it very seriously when I provide my analysis, because when I do get it wrong, that's on me. And I know the expectation from all of you guys here in the BWS is for me to get it right 100% of the time. So another beast receipt checks out. Just calling it how I see it. Always keeping 100. Here we are. Nick Bosa is in line to get top 5 edge money. All right. So let's talk about the instant gratification versus long-term gains, right? The second parameter. Back to Bosa. How much is he worth? How much is Nick Bosa really worth, right? Well, how much cap space do the 49ers really have right now? Well, they only have $5.1 million in cap space, but odds are they're going to be trading Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, if you're a betting man, you would place that bet. And you would save $25.5 million off the books because I think there's only $1.4 million in dead money somewhere around there. So when you take the dead money subtracted by the cap number, the savings that you would have are exponentially in the 49ers' favor for extending guys like Nick Bosa. And when you take that and playing the hat of Parag Marathe, right? And you're saying, hey, look, all right, so we only have $5.1 million in cap space. And if we wipe our hands clean from Jimmy G, now we have about 30 million plus in excess of cap space that we can sign Deebo as well as Nick Bosa, right? So let's go ahead and peel back layers of the onion to get to the core, as I always like to say. What is Nick Bosa worth? All right. What is Nick Bosa really worth? Let me put up that ticker here. So what is Nick Bosa really worth? All right, so let's look at the comparables. Well, look at TJ Watt got, right? He basically went against his agent wishes, and he said, you know what? This is a good deal. I'm the highest paid defensive player. And I look about and talk about this in the BEASTwriter Plus subscription when TJ Watt was inked to that big money contract, because again, there was a contract snag, and the contract snag always comes down to guaranteed money. If you guys remember, I talk about the hard cap as opposed to the soft cap. When it comes to the NFL, money is not guaranteed. So I don't care if you sign a 5-year, $200 million contract. It's all about the guaranteed money at the end of the day. And so when you look at the guarantees for top 5 edge rushers, and then you double down on those gains, and you look at guys like Pittsburgh Steelers TJ Watt, who got my vote for Defensive Player of the Year by the Pro Football Writers Association as being a proud member of that prestigious group, he gets $28 million per year APY. All right, you look at APY, right, annual per year. And then you see, oh, whoa, what does Joey Bosa get? Nick Bosa's brother up in down in LA. Well, he inked a $27 million APY contract. What does Myles Garrett get in the AFC North? He's getting $25 million APY. What is Khalil Mack getting? $23.5 million with the Chicago Bears in the NFC North. So you look at the top 5 edge rushers around the league, and you can honestly tell me that Nick Bosa is not going to be helping reset that market? Absolutely he is. Now, is he going to get TJ Watt money? I wouldn't say he's going to reset the market for that specific reason, because I think that Nick Bosa has a little bit more to prove. I mean, he's coming off a torn ACL. He did have one good year, but hey, we still don't know how that's going to hold up for the foreseeable future when you talk about long-term gains. And if you're looking at it from the financial standpoint from the San Francisco 49ers, you have to look at that. Because I told you guys this, right? I talked about ACL injuries, how the age group within North America here is 15 to 25. How old is Nick Bosa? And then you double down on that, and how many times have I talked about this? You develop arthritis in the affected knee over time, so that's going to have a lasting impact. Yes, medicine has kind of evolved, but at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding when you look at the analytics and the numbers. So with that being said, I still think that Nick Bosa is going to be worth top 5 edge rusher money. Not a question. The question is, how much is he worth, right? And if you look at Nick Bosa's future contract compared to Eric Armstead, well, Eric Armstead signed a 5-year, $85 million backloaded contract. So again, he was banking on the team, or the team was banking on his future success, not success that he already established himself as. Nick Bosa is the reverse. Nick Bosa is going to get guaranteed money up front. So he's not banking on future returns. He's banking on what he has done today, which is going to have leverage in negotiations for that extended long-term deal, which, as we know, will be somewhere in the ballpark of over $100 million. All right. And so I peel back layers of the onion, and I talk about front-loaded contract versus a solid depth piece, all-pro talent versus a solid depth piece, as in Eric Armstead, because let's face it, Nick Bosa makes others better. I can't say the same for Eric Armstead. You switch him inside, but yet we're going to talk about this, how we need to restructure Eric Armstead's contract, because at the end of the day, there's not enough money to go around. I'm going to talk about this because I covered it. All right. So again, what Nick Bosa does is he frees up one-on-one and gives other players one-on-one action. That's why Arden Key's getting live action. That's why Samson Ebukam getting live action. That's why DJ Jones sometimes gets live action as an interior rusher. And of course, Eric Armstead. So when Lynch says the team budgeted for Bosa, time will tell. And I believe he did, because you cannot let that type of homegrown talent walk out of your building like we did with DeForest Buckner. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. All right, so that's why I think Nick Bosa is going to get somewhere in the ballpark of 25 to 27 million APY. I don't think it's going to be anywhere above that, and it's going to be well over $100 million in guaranteed money. So look for that to be a play. Look for Nick Bosa to be a happy man and a very rich man. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the second player that we'd like to discuss, which is Deebo Samuel. Again, came out of that 2019 draft class, right? Second round pick, drafted number 36 overall. In 38 regular season games, he has 3,148 scrimmage yards and 21 touchdowns, both receiving and rushing. All right, so whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, the offense runs through Deebo. He is the engine that makes that offense go. Let's not mistake about that. There is no mistake about that. We all know where that's going, right? We all know what Deebo Samuel brings to the table. We all know the element of surprise that Deebo adds to any defensive coordinator's nightmare when he goes to sleep at night. How do we account for Deebo? What are they going to do this week as opposed to last week? The film that we watched leading up to this week, is Kyle Shanahan going to have something up his hand or up his sleeve that he's going to do something and throw an ace out of nowhere? We don't know, but we know what Deebo Samuel brings to the table. He brings an element to that offense that no one can account for. I mean, I think we all can agree, which is why I voted Deebo Samuel as a first-team All-Pro for the PFWA, Pro Football Writers Association, along with Cooper Kupp. The guy is just amazing. And in fact, I already run on record, nothing against Cooper Kupp, but I think Deebo Samuel is the best wide receiver, all-around wide receiver in the NFL, just because of what he can bring to the table on any given snap. All right? So remember, I predicted both Bosa and Deebo Samuel to be drafted by the 49ers, and I said if they did, they would get an A grade before the 2019 draft class even took place. And here we are sitting today, and you got both those guys, and then I doubled down on those gains when we're talking about Deshaun Watson talk. I was like, no, man, you're not going to want to trade your homegrown talent, Bosa or Deebo Samuel, right here on YouTube. As I talked about this, I had their backs. I said, no, these guys are going to be great. All right, you don't do that. Because if you get rid of one part, you're going to have to be replacing that one with another. So it's just like you're spinning your wheels. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the instant gratification versus long-term gains here. All right. So the instant gratification versus long-term gains, we're talking about the wide receiver position. We're talking about the comparables, right? We're talking about DeAndre Hopkins getting 27.2 million APY. We're talking about Julio Jones getting in excess of 22 million APY. We're talking about Keenan Allen. Again, on the same team as Joey Bosa. So if you look at the comparables there, if you want to peel back the layers of the onion to get to the core, he's getting $20 million per year APY, along with Amari Cooper getting $20 million APY there. The wild card for me is Davante Adams. All right. The wild card for me is Davante Adams because of the fact, like, we don't know. Is he going to get franchise tagged by the Green Bay Packers? Probably. Why? Because he's going to want to reset that market. He's going to want more than what DeAndre Hopkins is getting at 27.2. He's going to want in excess of 28, possibly even 29, even $30 million APY. The drawback to that is Deebo Samuel is not going to be doing that. I don't think he's going to try to reset the market. I think he'll be settling for a $60 million fully guaranteed contract. And that's a lot of money. I mean, that's top 5 wide receiver money. And again, we talk about peeling back layers of the onion to get to the core. In order to predict future behavior, we have to delve into the past. Let's look at Le'Veon Bell. Remember Lev Bell with the Pittsburgh Steelers? He was a running back listed, but then he did a lot of things as a receiving threat, and he wanted wide receiver and running back money. He wanted both. He wanted 2 dipping sauces in one. And Steelers GM Kevin Colbert said, no, not today. Not today. And we all know what happened with Le'Veon Bell's career. So this is why I think when you look at the value of what Deebo Samuel brings to the table, because we always have to look at the value, right? I'm going to pull up the sticker here. What's his value? I always take it back to this. What would the offense look like without Deebo Samuel in that offense? I think we can all agree the offense wouldn't be as dynamic, it wouldn't be as fresh, it wouldn't be as exotic, and it wouldn't be as consistent, because what Deebo Samuel brings to the table is he can kind of roll coverages to a certain way and just kind of be a decoy, because you always have to kind of leverage your splits that way, because even if you play your splits honestly, we all can see how Deebo Samuel can make tacklers miss and all these forced missed tackles in open space. So again, what Deebo Samuel brings to the table is not only a running back, but a wide receiver, and then everything in between as a return specialist. I think you have a player here that you can honestly say no player does everything as well as Deebo Samuel does them. And that includes Cordero Patterson. That includes all these excess, if you guys play fantasy football, all these players in a nutshell. I mean, Deebo Samuel is, the position should be called the Deebo. All right, that's the new position. It's called the Deebo. All right. And I think he's really changing the game and becoming a game changer, because he's the first of its kind, I would say. Now, you can go back and talk about Gale Sayers from the Chicago Bears. We can go ahead and talk about that. You guys don't know who Gale Sayers is? Go look him up. All right, one of the best football players to ever Hall of Fame career with the Chicago Bears. But fast forward to today, Deebo Samuel, history repeating this out. Deebo Samuel is a monster. Deebo Samuel is a monster, all right? So I look for Deebo Samuel to get a contract in the ballpark around a 5-year deal worth over $100 million with $60 million in guaranteed money, all right? Now, we can look at this and say, okay, well, that's a lot of money up front, because, again, Deebo Samuel, just like Nick Bosa, is not predicated on his future success. He's already done it. So he's going to get guaranteed money up front. It's going to be a front-loaded deal, not a back-loaded one like Eric Armstead. Speaking of Eric Armstead, the Niners are going to have to restructure some deals, all right, that they currently have in place. So Eric Armstead would be the first because he is the second highest paid player in terms of salary cap for next season. He's due to make $20 million. And what did he do in the NFC Championship game? Absolutely nothing. He didn't have one tackle. He was non-existent. I saw that. Well, that was one of my X factors on the Relevant app with my man Randy Cross, and I talked about that. I said, you know what? Eric Armstead and DJ Jones are the guys who are actually going to have to create pressure up front organically for them to even have a chance. Because if they don't, we all know what Nick Bosa is going to bring to the table. We all know what kind of speed they have on the edges, but up front on the interior is really where it's going to come down to it. All right, and that was the next factor, and Eric Armstead was a non-factor, although he did play well from weeks 17 into the deep playoff run. But again, consistency is key in the NFL, and if you're not consistent, you're not going to be worthy of the contract that you're going to get. In my opinion, I think that Nick Bosa is much more valuable than Eric Armstead simply because he makes others better by being consistent, being disciplined in his run fits, and most importantly, making others better simply because so many offensive schemes have to focus on what he does on the edges. And so that's why I think that Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa make others better by default just by them being on the field. And again, Eric Armstead's going to have to restructure his deal. I think you're going to have to restructure that deal because at the end of the day, he has so much money in dead money that you really have to kind of structure it in a way where changing it in the future deal in the form of a signing bonus spread over the life of the contract, and that's exactly what you do. DJ Jones may be the odd man out, let's face it. I mean, there's only so much money to go around, and again, you have Javon Kinlaw sitting there, so what's going to happen with Javon Kinlaw? You're going to have him ride the pine. You drafted him 14th overall to be that guy, to team up with, not DeForest Buckner, but to replace DeForest Buckner, as fair or unfair as it is, and he's going to have to be that guy. You can't sit Javon Kinlaw in year 3 and be a solid depth piece. You're just admitting fault that he's just not the guy. So I think you have to give Javon Kinlaw his opportunity to shine, and Javon Kinlaw would love it. And again, as his biggest inspiration, his words not mine, I am hoping for Javon Kinlaw to bounce back at some point. It's all a matter of if he can stay healthy. But at the end of the day, I think by him having Eric Armstead inside, I think that's going to do wonders for them. I think you do have to roll that way. As much as I love DJ Jones playing at an all-pro level in my grading system, I think he has to be the odd man out because there's only so much money to go around. You're looking forward to the future. You have to know what Javon Kinlaw has. You can't do that by him riding the pine and being a depth piece at best. You can't do that. And then on the flip side of that, you talk about trenches. You talk about Laken Tomlinson. He's also up for a contract, and do you think they're going to re-sign him, or are they going to draft somebody? I think they're going to draft somebody because there's just not enough money to go around. So you can't keep everyone, but Deebo and Bosa are top 2 in-house priorities that I would go ahead and make a play for. And again, whatever the cost is, you go ahead and get it done. You can't have any of those guys walk out the building and having them play for someone else. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. And that's why I think, and John Lynch already said, we budgeted for it. Well, time will tell how much they budgeted for it, because at the end of the day, they have the franchise tag in their back pocket that they can slap the non-exclusive tag where if a team signs them, they give up and forfeit 2 first-round draft picks. So it's going to be interesting how this one plays out. But at the end of the day, I think it will get done. I think both players will be in red and gold for years to come. All right, well, that'll be it for this YouTube live stream. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you did, please drop your comments in the comment section, and I will be sure to get back to you. Also, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Also, flip on and turn on the bell notification so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content here on YouTube. All right, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you had a good day. Hope this analysis was well worth your time. I think I did a good job at this, but you guys can be the judge. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. That's it for today. BEASTwriter out.